Well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment.
Today's podcast guest is Alex Shay of Gun Owners of America. How you doing, Alex?
Fantastic. Good to be here.
Good. One of the first questions I normally ask our guests, Alex, is what does the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution mean to you?
So for me, Alex Shay, GOA, I fight for liberty every day. And whenever I think about the Second Amendment, it appears to me that it is the chink in the armor that makes all of the other tyranny in our world possible. So let me back up and sort of explain what I mean. You as a human being are like a glass of water. You're made up of molecules, but those molecules are all inherently human. They're all inherently you. Same as water, rights are like that as well. So there's no separating rights from other rights. So just like I have the freedom of speech or the freedom of religion or the right to not be cruel or unusually punished or the right to have a speedy trial, those rights are never questioned to the degree that the Second Amendment is. But those that would seek to see us disarmed, those who crave power and absolutely want to expand tyranny are the ones who will attack the Second Amendment and say, this right you have to have a permit for. This right you have to pay $200 and wait a year to have a muffler for it. This right you have to take X amount of training and do these things. This right comes with mandatory, sentencing that will, create this thing. So imagine for a moment, gentlemen, if we expanded that to any other right. Mm-hmm. Imagine if somebody came to you and said, hey, Joe, if you want to be Catholic, you're going to have to take a 16-hour course, pay the sheriff $250 so he could take a picture of you, fingerprint, who you are, where you live, and how many prayers you do a day. And remember, you can't have a larger than 3 or 4 prayers a day. And if you go more than twice a week, well, that's an extreme amount of prayer. That becomes dangerous. Also, if you go into Maryland, you can't be Catholic. Like, none of that makes sense. None of that would ever stand for any other right. But yet, those that would seek to see us disarmed, those who would seek to steal liberty and freedom from the individual, especially American citizens, they crave and love poo-pooing on the Second Amendment because it opens up the doors for the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 14th, and so on and so forth.
Right. And my assumption is your passion for that particular civil liberty is what drove you to get involved with Gun Owners of America. Is that right? I
mean, I have a unique story. It actually begins here in Las Vegas. As I mentioned, I'm trapped here in Las Vegas. I was a United States in my youth. I was a combat medic in the United States Army. I did that for 10 years. It started in 2003, and as I grew, I became a veteran, and I got out and I started going to college. My mother got me a gift, sort of a thanks, kiddo, for not dying in a war kind of gift. And so when I returned from Iraq after 15 months of glorious fun in the sun in beautiful sunny Bakuba, Iraq, a few years later, my mother gave me a gift, and that gift was an AR-15. It was a SIG M400 and a bump stock. It came as a combo mambo kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
And so that led, and then shortly after that gift, like a week later, the events of Mandalay Bay here in Las Vegas happened. Yep. Now, whatever you want to believe about Mandalay Bay is fine, but it led to the bump stock ban, which was instigated by a different organization that likes to negotiate rights away, and was told by the Trump administration that this was the way to go. And then they made this executive order. So at the drop of a hat, with the stroke of a pen, after having survived 15 months of combat as a combat medic, where I've seen more blood, guts, and suffering than I care to share, then my mother transfers, what the federal government believes, transfers me a fully automatic machine gun, making her and myself both subject to 25 years in prison and up to $250,000 fines apiece.
Interesting.
And so the terms of that were, you have to give up your bump stock, or you have to destroy it, or you have to do what I did, which was neither of the above. I just kept it and was like, I guess if they're going to come get me for a gift my mother gave me for surviving a war for this country, then that's going to be how it goes down. That's going to be
Gotcha.
what that is. And I don't crave conflict. I don't want anything like that, but I wasn't going to be subject to that. So I joined an organization, and that organization did not do for me what I thought it was going to do. So I very quickly asked for a refund from that organization, and then I became involved with GOA. One of my co-workers at the time, I was working at a gun store, told me that they were the only no compromise gun rights group in the United States. And I did my research, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on,
Sure.
or shame on you, fool me once, shame on me. But I did my homework, and after having looked and scoured the internet, I became somewhat of a GOA fan because they were actually doing what they were supposed to do. They were actually fighting for the rights of the individual and standing up for liberty as it's laid out in the Constitution. So, long story short, I started asking them for brochures and patches and stickers, and I started tabling at gun shows, and I started signing up members at gun stores, and pretty soon I found myself as the West Virginia State Director, and now I work all day, every day for GOA and
I was
in
just
the
going to ask
marketing
that. That's
development
fantastic.
section. Yeah, so now this is my full-time gig. I get to tell people about freedom, liberty, and the American way of life every single day, every single way.
That's a pretty good gig.
Yeah, that's not a bad job. When how far back does that go? When did you initiate that relationship?
I've been with the organization for 8 years now. So that was like 2018, 2019, somewhere around there.
Now, when you say the GOA has a no compromise stand in sticking up for the civil liberty of carrying a firearm and owning a firearm, break that down for me. What do you mean when you say it's no compromise?
So when I say it's no compromise, I mean there's 27 words that make up the Second Amendment, and it says what it says, and it means what it means. Shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. So that's pretty much who we are and what we're about. And if anybody wants to change the Second Amendment, be my guest. You go ahead and go through the amendment process for that. But until that time, every law on the books is an infringement. Every law is against the law. We're violating the terms of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. And like I said, we didn't write the Constitution. We're just trying to tell people like, hey, you're in violation of the law, which is why every time we sue, we win, because hallelujah, that's what it says on the paper. That's what the document says.
Would you say you're an absolutist when it comes to the Second Amendment?
I mean, I can absolutely read, if that's what you mean. You know what I mean? Like I said, I didn't make the Second Amendment, and neither did GOA.
Right.
It is what it is, and it says what it says. Now, I am a human rights absolutist. I believe that humans do have inalienable human rights, and that this is one of those inalienable human rights. And to, like I said, to poo-poo on one would mean to poo-poo on all of them. And that's not very cash money, if you ask me. Like, that's when you start getting down that slippery slope, and it becomes a very dark day for humanity when you start divvying up which rights are special, and then you start having different tiers of society, different tiers of justice, where some animals are more equal than other animals.
Right. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Joe, do you agree that this is one of the most well-reasoned guests that we've had on, when sort of like among certainly a sort of like a top 5 moment, maybe top 3 of someone who's really thought about the question that you asked?
Absolutely. In fact, 2 other really solid answers to that same question about what the Second Amendment means to them. I know you know one of the persons really well, which was William K. Kirk. We had
Oh yeah.
we did a podcast with him several weeks back, and that was a great one, and he had a great response.
Yep.
And Leigh, I don't know if you'll remember this one. This one's going back probably a year and a half, but I believe the GOA was somewhat involved in a court case with Rhonda Ezell.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
her answer to that question was also enlightening. It was a great response. But all 3 of those answers, although were several sentences, it all basically comes down to those 27 words, and that there isn't any interpretation there to deviate from what we are supposed to be allowed to do as citizens in this country.
Did you, Alex? Did you sort of formulate that line of thinking? Do you think that was forming in your mind when you were still a soldier, or is that something that really came to light for you as a result of your experiences with the M400 from SIG and
I wish wholeheartedly that I could say to you that I was this wise
Mm-hmm.
as a 20-year-old man.
Yep.
That now that I'm a 41-year-old man,
Yep.
that's just not the case. When I was much younger and I signed up for the Army, you swear an oath to the Constitution, but very rarely does anybody swearing an oath to the Constitution actually read the Constitution. And our public school systems do an incredible job of sort of glossing over the American Revolution in terms of that it was about disarmament and not necessarily about just tax stamps. It's more about Lexington and Concord and the king coming to seize the magazines and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of, I don't want to say brainwashing, but more like whitewashing of history,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they don't really want you to get that deep into it. And so I did read the Constitution while I was deployed. So now
Okay.
I've been in the Army for about 6 years.
Yes. Yes.
And I was deployed to Iraq. And you have a lot of free time in the desert. I don't know
Yep.
if you guys have ever had the pleasure of being there, but if you're not on mission, you're down. And when you're down, you're just looking for something to do. And electricity's in and out. Water's a scarce thing. And you're just like, I guess I'm going to read today.
Yep.
And so you get a hold of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, or you try to take online classes or something. And I read it, and I started to truly understand the gravity of the situation, given that I was being, placing myself in mortal danger every day for 15 months to uphold these ideals. And I figured, probably a good idea if I understood what those ideals were. And so when I got out of the military, I really didn't want to get out of the military. I was supposed to be retired by 41, but politics got in the way. I was in Iraq when it was McCain versus Obama, and whatever you guys think about those elections, they were good, they were bad. Some people voted for him for this reason or that reason, and elections have consequences. I didn't really understand at the time what those consequences would be, but when he was elected, they started fiddling around with the SOFA agreements. That's the security operational force agreement that we had with the Iraqi impromptu government that they had.
Yes.
And then they also mentioned exactly what day we were leaving. And so it became pandemonium for the last portions of the time that I were there. Similar, like if you thought the withdrawal from Afghanistan was bad, it definitely was bad. Iraq wasn't as bad as that, but it was on the same scale of bad, and for the exact same reasons. Like you don't just do it that way, and for some reason they keep doing it that way, but I digress.
Wow, that's really interesting.
I didn't really understand, but they cut all military spending and they cut all benefits in terms of re-enlistment benefits. So I wanted to re-enlist. And here's something really funny about that situation. Are you guys familiar with what stop loss is?
Yes. I was I'm a veteran. I was stop loss.
Okay, so I got to the 6th year of my 6-year contract, was transferred from Germany to Fort Eustis, got to Fort Eustis with less than 2 weeks left in my contract. They stop loss me and send me to Iraq for 15 months. That's fine. I wanted combat this entire time, but I got stuck in different units that weren't deploying. And then finally I get to deploy. So I'm kind of okay with it. It's fine. And in my head, I'm like, well, that's good because I can go to Iraq, be there for a year, renegotiate my contract, and get my bonus tax free. That's a great plan, right? This is like working out.
I think under normal circumstances, that would have worked out fine.
That would have been great. So by the time that year rolls around, now Obama's been elected, and he starts downsizing the military very aggressively, and they've cut all these benefits in terms of re-enlistment benefits, and they've cut all this stuff. So now I'm simultaneously in the desert, stop lost, so I can't leave, but I also can't re-enlist, so I can't stay. So the same government is telling me that I'm too good, too important to leave, but I'm not enough to stay. And so it was an interesting dichotomy right there that was happening. And so I genuinely just was sort of disgusted with politics at that time, got out, went to WVU's, the college I went to, and I'm about a year and a half, 2 years into college, And now the sequester's coming. So the sequester is when they shut down the government because of the Affordable Care Act. Republicans didn't want to authorize it. The Democrats weren't going to do anything. So the government shuts down for like 8 months. Sounds wonderful on paper, unless you are a post 9/11 GI Bill veteran whose entire livelihood is dependent on the government funding your food, your housing, your books, your tuition costs. And WVU, love them or hate them. I do personally love WVU. But they didn't have the mechanisms in place to protect me or help me. And they were just like, too bad, so sad. Either pay or get out. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I didn't have those resources available to me, the resources that were promised to me as a soldier in the United States Army for serving in combat. And so I had to dropped out, became a professional DJ, did that for a few years. Then I started working for a multi-million-dollar range called Defense in Depth in beautiful sunny Morgantown, West Virginia. Did that for a few years, and that's when I learned about GOA, and that's when I started volunteering and working on them and organizing events and organizing different benefits for the membership of Defense in Depth so that more people's dollars could go further, and started building a synergistic economy of freedom. And GOA has me on now, and I'm the Caliber Club director for Gun Owners of America. And Caliber Club is
talk to us about that.
Yeah, so Caliber Club is a synergistic economy of freedom, where we have a network of FFLs across the United States, and GOA leverages its 2.5 million members to get better deals, better offerings, and also to protect you from big tech, from banks that want to debank you, from insurances that want to raise your premiums or drop you. We're doing a lot of things to improve the life of those Caliber Clubs, those FFLs, ranges, and retailers, because they're driving culture, and politics is downstream of culture. I need them to be economically successful and viable, so that they can continue to perpetuate the culture of the Second Amendment, make people calm, cool, collected, and confident in their ability to utilize the 4 universal safety rules, and also to communicate those ideals of freedom to their family, friends, and most importantly, to their politicians.
And that Caliber Club, that could be very important. And from my perspective, just learning, I didn't know anything about that Caliber Club. But a lot of these politicians and these laws, when they want to take away our ability to exercise our right with firearms, when they're running into resistance on the front end, it seems like there's always a ploy on the back end. You mentioned debanking and not allowing transactions to occur. And if I recall correctly, a new code was recently introduced so that if you're making a purchase for ammunition, now it's with a credit card, it now has its own code, so they know that ammunition specifically was purchased. And I look at all of that as a way on the back end to circumvent the Second Amendment as well.
Absolutely. Those are called MCC codes, and they are instituted by the international banking systems to track those kinds of things. And people always ask, what can we do to stop that? That's not a government thing. That's an entity. That's a civil entity, like a corporation or a bank. So it's much more difficult, but you can contact your local politicrators like we have in West Virginia and get your treasury secretaries or your legislatures to make it illegal. So I believe Florida's made it illegal, West Virginia's made it illegal, Tennessee's made it illegal to have MCC codes, Texas has made it illegal. So those are things and ways that you can do it, because they have to remain in compliance for all 50 states because they're engaging in interstate transactions.
Gotcha. That's good to know. Unfortunately, here in Illinois, we've got a lot of restrictions.
Right.
Many of which I'm specifically not happy about, and is pretty vocal against it. But I'm also, to be quite honest with you, I'm also pretty frustrated with our United States Supreme Court for not taking up some of these measures that are just blatantly against our civil liberty.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping to see that sooner than later, but for whatever reason, that seems to be getting kicked down the road regularly.
Yeah, no, they definitely could be doing more. I would like to see more Supreme Court cases addressing the Second Amendment specifically, because once again, the Second Amendment is just as important as any other right. And so when they refuse to do this, they're opening up the floodgates for more situations where other rights can be violated in a similar fashion. So much so that, the fact that concealed carry permits or the scheme that's been going on for over 100 years with the NFA, where they don't have a gun registry because it's illegal to have a gun registry, but they do have a tax registry because a tax registry is completely legal. You could do the same thing to religion or speech. I mean, imagine if somebody said you had to pay a $200 tax in order to, not, and then wait a year, get fingerprinted and pictured in order to not have to be cruel or unusually punished or to have a speedy trial. Like, it would be insane to think that that was something. But when we have those kinds of implements in place, it leaves that door wide open for them to abuse it that way.
Sure. And that's a big reason why GOA exists at all, right? To stick up for our liberty. Could you tell us a little bit more about GOA membership and why it's important and what being a member of the GOA means?
Yeah, being a GOA member is very easy. We break it down Barney style, all the legislation, whether it be on the national level or at the state level, and we do it according to your zip code. So when you become a GOA member, it's $25 one-time, non-reoccurring at gunowners.org. That is www.gunowners.org. And when you sign up to become a GOA member, of course, you're included on any and all of our injunctions if they come into existence in that way. But also, like I said, we break it down, the legislative they're having on the state and federal level, and we break it down so that you can communicate to your politicrators. So we always send these pre-written letters, which are completely editable. We never want to put words in your mouth, but if you're lazy like me, when you get the pre-written letter and you just hit send, it'll go to the appropriate congressman or senator, governor or president, and it will have a real impact because we are the largest grassroots nonprofit organization in the United States in the Second Amendment space. And that's how we actually have been moving the needle on everything up to and including this reconciliation of the big, beautiful lawsuit and the big, beautiful bill that we just got through.
So you mentioned a $25 membership. So somebody out there right now that's not a member, they can join and be part of GOA for $25, and that you said that's non-reoccurring, that's not an annual thing. They pay $25, they're now a member of GOA, and then they become part of the mass that is, I guess, what would essentially be the plaintiff in a bunch of these cases. Am I stating that correctly?
Absolutely. I would completely agree with the way that you're saying it. So there has been an incredible turn of events recently. There's a case called Casa v. Trump. Casa v. Trump was a case that had to do more with immigration than guns. So sort of touches fingers with us in the sense that there's no such thing as a nationwide injunction anymore. In that case, they asked for a nationwide injunction to stop all of the deportations of illegal immigrants because of, fill in sad reason here, but they lost at the Supreme Court. But in that decision, sounds wonderful depending on your politics, but it set the precedent that there can no longer be these broad nationwide injunctions. So GOA recently had nationwide injunctions for frames and receivers, for universal background checks, and also for our pistol brace injunctions. Those were injunctions that and whenever GOA seeks an injunction, we always seek a nationwide injunction because we seek to protect all Americans, especially all American Second Amendment rights. So whenever Casa v. Trump concluded, now you have to be a GOA member in order for our injunctions to protect you. And we're still going to always swing for the fences and try to widen that classification to more people. But right now, as it stands, that's something that has just recently developed. So being that GOA member for $25 a year is very easy. And once again, it's not recurring. So every year we have to prove to you that we are worth that $25. And that's how you, fine citizens, hold us accountable.
And for what a citizen gets for $25, I'm amazed that not every gun owner would want to be part of the Gun Owners of America.
Well, I mean, and Joe, to be fair, it's kind of like this. GOA spends 95% of every donation on the fight, whether it be lobbying or whether it be actions in the courts. So if it's judicial or if it's legislative, that's where 95% of the money goes. We're not buying billboards or radio ads or TV. We don't buy fancy suits. We file lawsuits. We don't take politicians to dinner. We take them to court. That's who we are. That's what we're about. And so you kind of have to hear about us word of mouth or you're just not going to hear about us.
But now GOA, I want to say this past August, they had a summit in Lexington. And I actually went down there, Alex. I had a phenomenal time. I met some wonderful, wonderful people. But now that summit, that is also really important for gun owners of America, if I'm not mistaken, because it gives an opportunity to form those partnerships and bring everyone together in order to help support gun owners of America in the courts. Is that right? Because anyone that's hired a lawyer for anything knows that none of it is inexpensive. And I would have to imagine, you said 95% of every dollar goes towards these court cases, but this has to be almost unimaginably expensive.
Yeah, and that's truly the burden of fighting an immortal leviathan like the federal government or even state governments, is that they print the money. You know what I mean? They have lawyers that are getting paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars every day, rain or shine, whether they win or lose. And we're doing the best we can with what we got, and that's not a lot. But we don't let that get us down. We keep fighting every day, and that's why we keep continuing to reach out with our grassroots army, and we continue to advocate for freedom, and we continue to motivate for freedom, and we continue to donate for freedom, and that's what we're trying to do.
And you mentioned grassroots, and that's where it becomes really important for individual gun owners to recognize that them as an individual would almost be impossible to go up against a state, local, a local municipality, state, definitely federal government on their own. But simply donating a little bit of money and becoming a part of GOA is what allows that organization to do it on their behalf. And I think it's really important to get that word out there to continue to promote that. And I think a lot of people either don't understand that or just don't recognize that. So how do we as a gun community encourage other people to realize that? Is it to go attend things like goals?
Absolutely. I make the joke all the time, ape strong together. Or in a more eloquent way, as I believe Benjamin Franklin put it, we will all need to hang together, or we will surely all hang alone. So it's coming for you one way or the other, whether you believe it, whether you don't believe it, whether you think politics is just a show or whatever. We have reached a point in our society where you have to be involved. You have to be the change that you want to see in the world. And when you come to goals, that's Gun Owners Advocacy and Leadership Summit. The previous two were held in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I loved seeing you there, having a good time, meeting up with us. We have incredible speakers like Mark Smith and William Kirk and Jared Yanis, and we even have John Lovell and Braden Langley. We have these incredible Second Amendment giants, John Lott and Dick Heller, the Heller decision and the Crime Prevention and Research Center. There's just so much that's happening there. You can get the most up-to-date news for your state, for your region, and for the nation. And you get to also see the latest and the greatest from the industry. And it's fun for the whole family. There's an entire kids section where the kids can play with Nerf guns, and they can do all kinds of other fun activities. And there's food trucks. And like I said, we're not just appealing to one specific socioeconomic demographic or one specific racial category. This is for all Americans. Right. I myself am a Hispanic man. I'm half Colombian, half Irish. Eric Pratt, who's our vice president, he is Panamanian. The team, our federal affairs team, is JP, Ben Sanderson, and Aiden Johnston. Aiden, of course, is Caucasian, but JP is Dominican, and Ben Sanderson is Korean. Like we're a very, 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 very diverse group, and we didn't do this to be DEI compliant. We just organically are humans who organically love freedom and liberty and the American way of life.
That's awesome.
So
that is awesome.
Come to goals, man. It's going to be in Des Moines, Iowa this year, and we're looking at having like 10 to 15,000 people there, and we're going to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States. We're also going to be celebrating our own 50th anniversary.
Oh, wow, great.
So it's like the week right before or during the State Fair of Iowa, which is like one of the largest state fairs in the United States. So it's a really great time to get out there and check out all the new cool hot technologies, as well as, have media guys like you come down and see the range day and see the media vendor day. And then of course the madness that is the general admission for all GOA members. And any GOA member gets in for free. And if you're not a GOA member, it's like 25 at the door, so you can be a GOA member. And then you're covered under our injunctions and privy to all of our educational emails that make you a better American, that make you a finer citizen, so you can be engaged with your political process and not just a victim of your political process.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, and $25 nowadays, that's a trip to McDonald's. So to simply drop $25 and become part of the organization seems like one of the easiest decisions a gun owner can make. Or even honestly, somebody they don't even have to be a gun owner. They have to believe in civil liberties. Like that jumps barriers. If anyone that believes in protecting civil liberties, they can join just because the organization is sticking up for that civil liberty. And like you said, there's times that those decisions, they run into other categories. So that's one more reason to support GOA. But this year at the 2026 Goals Summit, it's going to be even a little bit bigger than last year, from what I understand. Are you guys getting increasing membership and gaining traction in terms of participation? Quite honestly, a lot of the impact comes from some of the manufacturers, right? Because they're such behemoths within the industry.
Yeah, really, it's the industry that's driving this, insatiable growth of goals. So Gun Owners Advocacy and Leadership Summit, this is a crazy idea. Haley Patterson, she's an incredible leader. She is in charge of marketing and development, and she wanted to take this on, and we saw a niche. We saw a hole in what was being provided at other big industry shows, and we wanted to make a couple promises to people. Number one, we wanted to make sure that you could always open or conceal carry or lawfully carry at Goals. So that's something that you don't get a lot everywhere else. Number two, we wanted to make sure that you were able to make your own choices on things. Like, if you want to build your own booth, that's great. Go for it. Just do it safe. Do it according to OSHA guidelines. I'm not going to make you use whatever XYZ company or XYZ organization. Like, we want you to be. We're a freedom, organization. We were really into freedom of choice. And then number three, we wanted to be able to have a show that regular Joes could come, but also the industry could come. So that's why the first 2 days is B2B. The first 2 days is your FFLs, ranges, retailers, industry guys, and manufacturers. And they get together on the range day. They have a great time, and they demonstrate those things to the media and to those FFLs, because that media is going to report on it, and those FFLs, ranges, and retailers are going to buy it. So they need to be able to see that on the range. And then the next day is media vendor day on the show floor. So that's where these FFLs, ranges, and retailers are shaking hands, signing contracts, making deals. And also those media folks are getting great content, whether it be good audio, good video, great panning shots of the booth and all the new cool wildness, and they can lay in some of the action shots they got from the day previously. And then the next 2 days is pandemonium, as I call it, but it's good pandemonium because those are the general public. Those are the GOA members. And this way, anybody can get in. Nothing's prohibitive. We're not saying anything other than come down, bring the whole family, have this great day, because the industry is not just for the industry. The industry is for all Americans of all colors, creeds, socioeconomic standing. Like, if you can afford $25 and or you're already supporting GOA, come on down.
When I went last year, that was my first time attending Goals, and I enjoyed it so much that I told Leigh right when I came back. I said we have to pencil in together to go next year, and then I found out that it's going to be even closer to us. So now we have that much more reason to attend. But I'm planning on going. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. I wish it was next week. But to our listeners, what would you say to encourage them to become more involved? Is there something that there's like specific motivation
Yeah, absolutely. I would say do not go quietly into that dark night, fine citizen. It is up to you to be the change that you want to see in the world. So don't stand idly by and expect that someone from the government is going to come and save you, or that any political promises that a politician makes are going to all of a sudden become reality, because that's not how it happens. It's up to you. If it's to be, it's up to me. So I need you to be calm, cool, collected, and confident in your ability to articulate the ideals of individual liberty, freedom, and the American way of life to your friends, your family, and most importantly to your politicians. And that starts with your GOA membership, because you will become the smartest person in the room by advocating for your freedom, by getting all this messaging broken down for you so that you can understand where the linchpins and pitfalls are in the legislation as it comes up. And you can also be very well read and very well versed in what judicial action we're taking, so that it doesn't just gloss over you and you actually advocate for what you want to happen, because we can't just stand idly by and hope for the best. We actually have to be involved. That's what our republic is built on. Those people are our public servants, but it only works if we are an educated citizenry that actually engages with those levers of political power.
So well put. I hope everybody that listens to this joins. I hope they all go to goals.
Yeah.
That
was really,
powerful.
really well
Yep.
said. I liked every word of that, Alex. And I personally would like to thank you very much for calling in to our podcast. I strongly encourage any and all of our listeners to visit GOA's website, become a member, get more involved, and consider going to the Goals Summit. It's from the Chicagoland area. I think it's going to be about a 4-hour drive, which is real easy to do, and I promise you that you will not regret attending. It is an absolute blast.
For sure. And once again, I cannot stress enough how much it is fun for the whole family. So bring Lottie Dottie, everybody, make a whole staycation trip of it up there in beautiful sunny Des Moines, Iowa.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alex, again, thank you so much for calling in.
Greatly appreciate your time.
we really appreciate it. I learned a little bit again today, which is always nice. And look forward to seeing you at Goals if I don't talk to you before then.
Heck yeah, brother. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you too.
Thanks a lot. You have a great one.
Sounds good. Have a good evening. Hope you get home safe.
Will do. Later.
All right.